NFL free agency isn't totally complete just yet. However, most of the key pieces have fallen into new spots and new teams, and now it's time to talk about how that's going to impact 2025 fantasy football. While most of the big dominoes have fallen, some have yet to fall yet in free agency. Aaron Rodgers, I'm talking about you. We can still talk about other key free agent acquisitions on other teams and key free agency re-signings that are going to impact fantasy football in this coming up season. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite bev, grab your favorite snack, and let's roll the intro. We don't have to say too much about this topic, but Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have re-signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. They have officially created themselves as the best NFL wide receiver duo, and there's nothing really else to say, you know. This doesn't change the way we feel about Jamar Chase or T. Higgins in fantasy football, at least for me. Kicking off with what I think has been the biggest free agency signing so far, that's Davante Adams to the LA Rams. And this could potentially be a great fantasy pick in 2025 if you could grab Davante Adams. No doubt, Puka Nacua is a beast in a first-round pick. He should be going nowhere outside of the first round. And adding Davante Adams instead of Cooper Kupp, given that, you know, Puka Nacua could miss time at any given moment, Davante Adams is a great fantasy asset now, adding him with Matthew Stafford in this LA Rams offense. And if you, just like me last year, were dying to draft Cooper Kupp at his round 3, round 4 ADP, if Davante Adams is there in round 3, round 4, you should be jumping all over that as well, because it's the same kind of outlook that you had for Cooper Kupp. No, it didn't work out. You didn't really learn anything from it, though, other than Cooper Kupp may just not be that number 2 option anymore that we expected him to be from the year before, where it was like Puka and Cooper Kupp were just popping off every single week. I would be looking for Davante Adams if he's going after the second round in fantasy this year. Keeping it going, we'll talk about another wide receiver. That's Chris Godwin, who's re-signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he's not going anywhere. He's also going to stay with the team that he played for in 2024. And what's interesting about Godwin is that he didn't have too rich of an ADP last year. Had a phenomenal 2024 season before he got injured. And it's going to be real interesting to see where his ADP falls next year, because he should have another great season barring any injuries. Keep it in the NFC, but this time we're going to go out west. The Seattle Seahawks signed Cooper Kupp to be their, I guess, number 3 or Tyler Lockett replacement for the time being. Not so sure. What we know right now, he is going to play third fiddle to DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Maybe there is a DK Metcalf trade in this offseason and Cooper Kupp becomes a second option to JSN. I think that would be interesting. No, I wouldn't be too excited about drafting him if he was the second option in Seattle. I would personally be fading Cooper Kupp in his new situation in Seattle. And another wide receiver that I would be fading, despite joining a new team, is Deebo Samuel, who's joining the Washington Commanders. It's a good ad for them. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm not trying to say anything bad about this team. I was actually pretty high on them going into last season. But I'm probably just not going to draft him in 2025. We've seen Terry McLaurin put up wide receiver 1 numbers. The Washington Commanders re-signed Zach Ertz, so it's another option in their receiving core. De'Ami Brown was building a good chemistry at the end of last season. And the only thing, hey, I could be wrong about this, but I just don't see Deebo Samuel having any kind of resurgence in Washington and putting together any kind of strong, notable fantasy football season again in his football career. Now let's talk about the LA Chargers. We talked about a lot of wide receivers moving around. Let's talk about running backs. The LA Chargers signed Najee Harris, which I think could be a sneaky signing in fantasy for us. We know Najee Harris is not the most efficient running back, but benefits off of the sheer fact of volume. And what kind of held Najee Harris's fantasy value back in years prior, besides his rookie season, of course, was how good the Pittsburgh Steelers offense was. Now we're going to put Najee Harris, who's a guy who likes to get a ton of carries, maybe not be efficient with those carries, but will get the carries, will run the rock. And the Chargers are a good offense that wants to run the football. This is a perfect pairing for Najee Harris this year in 2025. It's going to be his 5th year in the NFL, so if you watch the running back video, how we spot breakouts, year 4 or better is more likely to reach top 25. So given that he's more likely because of his age and now fitting into an offense that fits the type of player he is, Najee Harris could be a really good draft pick. So I'm excited to see where he goes ADP. He might be one of those players in best ball that I just keep grabbing and grabbing just because of the ADP value and what I could possibly get out of it. Sort of to what I thought Brian Robinson was a year ago. This next one might be a hot take, but you're going to have to hear me out on this one. Justin Fields is signing with the Jets, and I actually think this could be a good thing for Jets players in fantasy this year. I really do. Now, before I give my reasoning as to why I think the Jets could be really good in fantasy, let's just remind ourselves really quick, or let me remind myself, I should say, that Justin Fields in his 4 years in the NFL has proven to be an okay quarterback at best, and the New York Jets are the New York Jets. But now let's talk about what this offense could be in 2025. Let's acknowledge the fact that this is the best team offense-wise, the best weapons Justin Fields has had in his career so far. It's not the best coach Justin Fields has had in his career, but it's the best supporting cast of weapons he's had by far. And if we go back to what Justin Fields has shown us in his 4-year career so far, he's shown us that he may not be a top 10 quarterback, but he finished as QB11 one time and possibly could get back to that top 12, maybe even top 14 stature with the pieces and the weapons on the New York Jets. We also know Justin Fields in his career has fueled wide receiver 1 production already with DJ Moore. So being that he's already played with Garrett Wilson in college, given that he's teaming up with him again, we could probably assume that someone who finished as wide receiver 10 last year could probably finish again as a top 10 wide receiver this year. So we're looking at a top 12 to 14 quarterback, a top 10 wide receiver, hopefully even better than that. That would be a score. And however you identify Breece Hall as the running back, I would say has top 12 potential for sure next year. This could be a really good offense for fantasy. Leaving fantasy outside of this, we've also seen in years past and recent history, a lot of teams with new coaching staffs and first-year head coaches and adding new pieces together usually end up doing pretty well and succeeding. Like, look at what just happened in Washington. I know they hit on a great draft pick and a quarterback, but they get a new coaching staff, new regime, and everything just starts clicking right away for them. So it's possible the Jets could see early success in this era of Justin Fields and the Jets, or as I like to call it, Justin and the Jets. This is where the free agency signings get a little less impactful now. Let's talk about Evan Engram signing with the Denver Broncos. This is actually a big addition to their receiving room, as no doubt Courtland Sutton was their one, and Courtland Sutton was phenomenal. But every week it seemed like a new guy was coming for the ride, and nobody consistently could be that number 2 receiving option to Courtland Sutton. So adding Evan Engram is actually potentially a good idea in terms of getting a second receiving option in this offense. We know Evan Engram, he's gotten upwards of 170 targets in a season before, so we know he can handle that kind of volume. We know he doesn't really go out for, deep shots. It's a lot of short, routes where, he runs like kind of like a 5-yard hitch and comes right back to the ball. So there's going to be, that kind of ease for Bo Nix to just get the ball out of his hands quick, make good, easy throws. And another reason why you should want Evan Engram this year in 2025 is you have a tight end in a Sean Payton-led offense. Do I need to sell you on anything else? I personally just thought this was an interesting signing. Could end up being absolutely nothing. But Elijah Mitchell signs with the Kansas City Chiefs. They did also, I didn't mention this before earlier when we talked about wide receivers, did re-sign Marquise Hollywood-Brown, so we'll just get that out of the way. And I think Elijah Mitchell could potentially be a really good sleeper running back in 2025. We know what he's capable in terms of when he's healthy, right? Of course, it's in a Kyle Shanahan-led offense where anybody looks like they could run the ball. You know, hell, my 8-year-old cousin could run the football behind that offensive line and pick up yards. But we also know that Isaiah Pacheco may not be able to take all of the carries in that backfield anymore. Yes, they have Kareem Hunt still on the roster, but they're going to need a guy that can kind of catch passes out of the backfield and run the ball when they need to. Yeah, they have Kareem Hunt. He's not much of a pass catcher anymore. They like to just get him the ball, run the ball in those short yard situations. Pacheco used to do that really well. We don't really know what Pacheco's future and situation looks like after, you know, he was a second-round pick last year, which is crazy. But one injury to this depth chart in this offseason before September rolls around, Elijah Mitchell could be playing meaningful snaps for Kansas City. So, to me, that's just something to monitor. We know he's a good player. We know this is a good team. We know they like to use their running backs on this team and on this offense. So, something to be mindful of. Elijah Mitchell, Kansas City Chiefs. And another ex-49er running back on the move. The Vikings traded for Jordan Mason, which now means that the Vikings could potentially give less carries to Aaron Jones and give Jordan Mason, who we know is good, more opportunities to be kind of like a 1-2 punch in this offense. Aaron Jones, for as good as he is bound to hit the cliff soon in terms of production and falling off. I don't think it's going to be 2025. I think he's just that good of a player to where if he gets the touches, he gets the opportunities, he stays healthy, because he's always, good to miss like 2 games or so. He can be a good running back again. I just feel like maybe, whether it's this year coming up or next year, potentially at least have somebody else to run the ball or make it a 1-2 punch if needed. So I think that's also something to be mindful of. An Aaron Jones injury, this is a good handcuff. This is a good handcuff to have in fantasy this year. And that pretty much wraps up my free agency kind of summary of what's happened so far. Of course, we're still waiting for dominoes to fall. That's to be expected. Will DK Metcalf get traded? The world will never know. We will find out eventually, though. And of course, there's going to be free agency acquisitions that I didn't talk about because I don't see them as that fantasy relevant or fantasy impactful for us this year. Like DeAndre Hopkins to Baltimore, I don't really know. So before you go typing in the comments about the Ravens added DeAndre Hopkins. But if you don't want to be a little hater and you want to start a conversation about a free agency signing that you liked, let me know in the comments. We could talk about it. You made it this far into the video. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you like this video, make sure you smash that like button down below. It would really help your boy out, and I would truly appreciate it. And if you're new here and you like fantasy football content, then make sure you subscribe down below. What are you doing, knucklehead? That's all I have for you guys today. It was so great to be back. I'm sorry I didn't post a video for the longest time. Just kind of wanted to have free agency unfold, and then we could talk about it. Definitely going to make videos about the draft. But honestly, just got caught up in a little too much Marvel Rivals recently. I'm probably going to go do that after I finish recording this. So yeah, let me go. I'm off to go play Marvel Rivals. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video.